Now we continue to follow breaking news. The Georgia election interference case finally reaching an end. Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee dismissed all charges this morning against President Donald Trump and his 14 remaining co-defendants.
Really big news out today. That ruling came less than an hour after Special Prosecutor Pete Scandalakis, he told the courts he believed the case should not move forward to, quote, serve the interest of justice and promote judicial finality. President Trump posting on Truth Social in part, law and justice have prevailed in the great state of Georgia as the corrupt Fani Willis witch hunt against me and other great American patriots has been dismissed in its entirety. Well, 11 Alive's Grace King has been following this case when it was brought down in 2023 to now, joining us live here in the newsroom. Grace, where this case was stalled for nearly 2 years.
Grace, why won't it resume?
Well, Special Prosecutor Pete Scandalakis says this case was on life support when it came before the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, and that he had to decide whether there was enough evidence for it to survive. He says his review raised too many questions about the case's jurisdiction, findings, and timeline for the prosecution to continue forward. There's not a lot in the 2020 election interference indictment that Pete Scandalakis would take to trial.
The document that he submitted to the court goes through his thinking about all of the different charges against all of the different people.
In the fake elector allegations, where several defendants are accused of having 16 Republicans meet at the Georgia state capitol to sign electoral college documents falsely claiming Trump won Georgia in 2020, Scandalakis wrote he found no criminal intent behind their plan to challenge the election results. In Coffee County, where several defendants are accused of illegally accessing and inspecting voting software and copying election data, two defendants, Sidney Powell and Scott Hall, had already pled guilty. Scandalakis says they played the key roles in that scheme and felt further prosecution is unwarranted.
I have to find 12,000 votes, and I have them times a lot, and therefore I won the state.
And in this infamous leaked call between President Donald Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, where Trump pressed him on Georgia's results and referenced the number of votes needed to put him ahead of Biden, Scandalakis says he believes there are two equally plausible interpretations and that the burden of proof is on the state, not the defendants.
It's absolutely true that RICO cases take a lot of time. They take a lot of witnesses. There's often a lot of documentary evidence that jurors have to follow along with, and it can be a very complicated narrative.
Plus, Emory law professor Kay Levine says you have to factor in politics.
Jury selection would take a very long time to find people who don't know very much about the case or hadn't formed pre-existing notions about guilt or innocence for any of the alleged co-conspirators.
Scandalakis says there is no realistic prospect that a sitting president will be compelled to appear in Georgia to stand trial on the allegations in this indictment, and that separating his case from the others would be both illogical and unduly burdensome and costly for the state and for Fulton County. And Scandalakis says he knows his decision will not be universally popular, but that his job is not to satisfy public opinion. He says his decision was guided solely by the evidence, laws, and principles